I think habits are so important for anyone. I don't even think necessarily on an entrepreneurial journey, but just in life. I think it's important to have good habits. I think it's important to have habits that help you grow, help you get better as a person. I think I've seen more specifically in the last sort of 3 to 4 years, you change a lot of your habits, and I would say it's changed your life in a lot of ways. I think health-wise, I think business-wise, I think mentality-wise, you're also probably a little bit different. So I think it's something that you can definitely talk on. I think there's been so much that you have changed, so I think it's fair. You've earned the right to be able to talk about habits. So from your perspective, what role do you feel like habits play in an entrepreneurial journey?
I think habits, all right, we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Good and bad ones, whether we like it or whether we're not. A habit to me is something you do without thought, so you don't have to consciously think about doing something, you just do it. So being a creature of habit, I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you're going to need a lot of, or you're going on an entrepreneurial journey, you're going to need a lot of very good habits. And I think the more something is a habit, I've had a wee board would illustrate this, right? When something becomes a habit, it goes for the conscious brain to the subconscious. Like breathing's a habit, walking on 2 legs is a habit. These aren't natural when you're born. You don't naturally breathe when you're born because you've been in the womb, right? You have to learn to breathe, because I only realised this when babies go blue and forget to breathe. I remember the first time I seen this, and baby goes, but I'm like, what do you mean forget to breathe? We breathe. And someone's like, no, you learn to breathe. And I'm like, what? So breathing becomes a habit. And think about, you've seen Jungle Book, Mowgli walks on all fours. Walking on 2 legs is we only walk on 2 legs because we're taught to. Like if you were raised to walk on all fours, you'd probably walk on all fours. So a habit is something you do without thinking, but you got your conscious, which is the things with your thoughts, and you got your subconscious. When the subconscious is working, you've got space in the conscious to take in information and deal with stuff. So if you're too busy thinking about doing stuff, so if you're an entrepreneur trying to grow a business and your brain's busy, your conscious brain's busy, you're going to limit your capacity for growth and limit your capacity for learning. So the more things, obviously, that work in your favour that you can make a habit and just something you do. Reading a book is just something you do. Listening to podcasts is just something you do. Get up and doing some exercise in the morning is just something you do. And a habit for me is something that feels weird if you don't do it. So for me, it was really important to form habits that favoured my life and made my life easier, but also made my life a bit better. By easier, I don't mean a habit of sitting on the couch and doing nothing all day. I mean things that actually fit, like making something a habit. Like getting up and training every morning made my life easier because it sets me up for the day good, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's important. I don't think that specifically what habits you form is dependent on each person, because you get loads of people that say getting up and training every morning is a good habit. And you have other people say, I don't train, but I'm successful. I don't reckon Musk has ever went to the gym. He would tell you that it's no important for it. So I don't think there's specific habits that favour everybody, but I definitely think that you forming habits that favour you and favour your life and favour what you're trying to accomplish is definitely good. Because again, it takes the thought, I don't have to go up and think about whether I want to train or not, because then I'm going to waste time and I'm going to waste energy. If I think training is going to make me better, and I think it's going to help me in my entrepreneurial career, then I need to make that just something that I do. Like I can't help doing it.
Yeah, habits become second nature, and when you don't do them, like if you don't go to the gym and train in the morning, it's not that good to be around you, because it's so second nature for you, and it's so like ingrained that you feel off for the rest of the day if you don't do that thing.
It's weird. If I don't have my coffee when I wake up, if I don't, and everybody's got these wee things, if they don't do it, just it might be a cup of tea, it might be a cigarette. If you smoke, it might be a vape, it might be a walk you go in the morning, it could be reading a book, it could be reading a newspaper. But we're all, if you think about, we're all creatures that, and so a habit for me is something that you feel strange not doing, because it's just something that a habit's just something you do without thought. I don't have to think about whether I want to do it or not. I have to do it because it's just part of what I do.
Yeah, it's a subconscious. I was actually thinking about this morning. When I was getting ready in the morning, my routine. What do you mean getting ready in the morning? I don't know.
It's good habit.
Not, yeah. But, even things like getting ready and how you get ready in the morning, it's all habits. And how you walk into the office, that's all habits. The routes that you go, it's all habits. Yeah. Like you do these things, it takes away decision making. Yep. And I think the more habits you have, the less decisions that you also have to make. And I was thinking about this morning because I was walking in and I was into the office and I thought, maybe I'll walk a different way. And I was like, I don't like that. That's not a decision I feel prepared to make this morning. I'm just going to stick to my route because again, it's decisions that you don't have to make. It almost just happens for you.
Yep.
Like there's so many times you've nearly ended up in the office in town or near the office when you're only meant to go to the shopping centre down the road because it's a habit for you just to drive in certain routes and stuff like that. So
driving to a certain car park, it's just a habit. I can't.
Yeah. It's a second nature thing to yourself.
Yeah, and everybody has habits, good or bad.
Yeah,
we all have. If you repeat an action enough times, that eventually just becomes something. Because if you repeat the same action over and over again, your brain will then just reckon, all right, we're going to do this all the time. So instead of me wasting conscious brain space, let me stick it in subconscious, which is just something we do. Because your brain wants space. Because your conscious brain can only hold so many things at one time before you feel overloaded.
Well, they did that study, didn't they, years ago? They did the study of smokers, and so they had all these smokers, and the study was to kind of wean them off smoking or whatever. So they had some smokers where they sort of went cold turkey and things like that and saw the effects of that. They had some smokers that they weaned them off like nicotine patches and less, had different dosage. But the most successful group was a group that they weaned them off nicotine completely, but they gave them a fake cigarette because it was the action. And so they could still do the action so they had the practice of smoking, but they didn't have any of the like chemicals and stuff like that. And that was the most successful group to stop smoking because the habit of and the action of doing it was almost more addictive and more second nature than the need for the nicotine.
I like that. I read a thing once, and don't quote me or attack me here in any way, shape or form, but I read a thing once that it's not the actual smoking that relaxes you, it's the deep breath you take when you smoke. So that would make sense, where it relaxes you because you're inhaling and breathing it. Now, someone pointed out, that's actually quite good. So that would make sense.
We're just wise people. For two non-smokers, we know not a lot about smoking. So how do you feel like habits help maintain an entrepreneur's consistency and also help maintain their path to their long-term goals?
Because again, I think it's about stacking habits that favour you for what you're trying to accomplish. And again, those habits will be different depending on person. Those habits will be different depending on what the person's trying to accomplish and what the person's capable of doing. So I always say that life's not consistent. Business is definitely not consistent. I don't care what market you're in. Definitely not consistent. But the only thing that can be consistent is me and my actions. And again, if something's important to me, I need to make that as a habit. If I do something daily that favours me, like reading 10 pages of a book or go to the gym or doing a sauna or whatever, right, or eating a certain type of food, I very quickly have to make that a habit, because the more consistent I am, the less I'll get caught up with the emotional ups and downs that come with everything else, which is just general life. Or again, if you're entrepreneurial in business, you're choosing to go on a roller coaster. But if I don't have solid habits that favour me and I'm inconsistent, along with life being inconsistent and business being inconsistent, it's just a
lot of inconsistency.
Just a walking time bomb, man. So that's it. And so I think a lot of people focus on consistent, but a lot of people look for consistent results. I don't look for consistent results. I look for consistent actions. And if my actions are consistent, then I know the results will be as consistent as they can be. So my daughter's doing her exam in chemistry today. And again, this is just, she's in a good habit of studying, like really good, exceptional. Like I love watching her study, because I get around at 12 at night, she got music on, and I think she's listening to music at 12 at night, and again, she's a wee bookworm, she'll pop up and go, what is it? And again, her results aren't always consistent when she gets the exam, but she's consistent. And I says to her last night, as long as you know you've done everything within your power, and you've done everything towards, you've done everything that you can within your power to get the result will be the result. But that's life, I think. I think if I'm consistent, life's going to be life. But if I'm inconsistent, I'm going to make life 10 times harder.
So why do you think people struggle to form good habits then?
Well, they don't care enough in the first place about... All right. Who wouldn't like to make more money and have a bigger business? Who wouldn't like to be healthier? Who wouldn't like to look better or have more like you find it very hard to find people that don't want to be better, right? It kind of goes against human nature not wanting to be it. But for a lot of people, it's a good idea. I think a lot of people struggle because the goal's not clear in the first place. It's not defined, and they don't care about the goal big enough. The bigger the habit I'm trying to form, or the harder the habit, or the bigger the habit I'm trying to get rid of, like smoking, the reason for doing that, the bigger it is, the more obsessed about it is, the easier it will be to form the habit or get rid of the bad habit if you've got one, right? So, I give an example. Someone who wants to stop smoking just because it's a good idea. Because they're like, oh, I'm going to, word being here, I'm going to try and stop smoking, I'm going to try and be healthier. Versus someone who says, you know what, I'm just having a baby, and I hear this a lot, I'm having a baby and I want to be a better example to my kid, and I don't want my kids to smoke, and I want to see my kid grow old, so I don't want to increase my chances of dying by smoking. It's going to be easier for the second candidate to get rid of that bad habit because they get a bigger purpose to do it. So I think a lot of people that try to do habits, try and form the habits with not a big enough reason for doing it. They don't give themselves a big enough reason. Second of all, they use the word try. When I stopped drinking, I woke up and says, I'm not going to drink again.
Much to my sadness.
Much to your sadness, because I'm great sober though. I'm a great time. I'm even better time now that I'm over drinking. But there was loads of times where I says I'm going to try and stop drinking. I like the idea of not drinking, and I would try it and I would feel miserably, right? But until I says with certainty, I'm done.
Wasn't that the Christmas you got like a beer keg or like a beer machine or something?
I got too drunk. I got too drunk at Christmas. This was the kicker, because I thought about it for a long time. I got too drunk at Christmas. I forgot Christmas. I have children. And I woke up and went, that's horrible. What can I put? No, I'm not doing that. So it was a bit of a shock for me to go, no, done. And it was still difficult. It took me until this year to get over. I can now, this is the third year, and only now can I go to social events and be completely at home and not drinking. I still had envy. I still pined after it a little bit for years. So now it's just that. Now I just don't drink. The idea of drinking now is like, no, it's not. I just don't drink. It's who I am. It took me 3 years now. I would deem it as being a habit now, not doing it. But it took me 3 years to form it, and it was really difficult.
I also think it's very interesting how your terminology around that has changed though. Like the first year, it was very much like, oh, like I've given it up, or I've stopped it, I've stopped for now, and it was all very like, you're talking about everything that you don't have, like, oh, I've given it up, or, you know, I've stopped for now, whereas now you're just like, I just don't drink, I'm not a drinker. And I think it's like also just the wording with it that goes with it, also like subconscious, like you're telling yourself that that's just not who you are anymore. That is not a habit that you have anymore.
Yep. It's like I'm going to try and be healthier versus I'm just going to be healthier. I think that certainty of telling yourself that, I think the words you tell yourself hold weight. And so when people go on, number one, maybe they've not got a big enough reason, they're trying it just because it's a good idea, which is always dangerous, because as soon as you feel pain, you're going to quit, right?
Yeah.
So anything you get yourself into, and good habits are hard to form. Bad habits are hard to get rid of. So getting rid of a bad habit or forming a good habit is really difficult. But if you have got a big enough reason, then it's the words that hold weight in your head. It's not like, again, this try and I'm going to get a bash, and you're already accepting that there's room for defeat. So it's got to be like, no, I'm going to get that. No, it doesn't mean, it's like when I started getting up my first alarm, I didn't go, I'm going to try and get up my first, I'm like, I'm going to get my first alarm from now on. Did it work all the time? No. Of course it took a while for me to get into it. But the words I would tell myself is, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to get it done, I'm going to get this habit. So I think the intention when you go into it is super important. Yeah. Probably more important than the habit itself, actually. Because words hold weight, and the things and the stories you tell yourself hold weight.
So on your entrepreneurial journey, 22 years next month, what would you say has been the most impactful habits for yourself and for your journey?
Learning, being healthy, I think, are the two best habits that I've formed. The ability to constantly think about how to get better. I can't help it now. I can't. So I hate when I'm comfortable. I get bored when I'm comfortable now. I used to, and my wife will laugh at me now, because now I'm always looking for stuff to do, and even when she met me, I still like to do not a lot. And she'll giggle at me now because I can't sit still, and I need to be. So I formed a habit of always trying to be better. I think that's helped me in my my personal life. It's helped me be a better dad, it's helped me be a better husband, it's helped me be a better friend for the very few friends that I have, a very small circle. I'm quite picky. You're in the circle, by the way.
God, thank you so
Yay,
much.
well
I
done.
could cry.
But I think that, and I think my health, I've seen a huge difference in how well I've performed in business when I take more care of my health, because I always feel good. What was the conversation I had? I had a conversation with Ross Conley last night, and I can't remember how we got into the subject, but he was talking about me feeling good. And I'm like, he talked about me doing something to make myself feel better. And I says to him, I don't think I could feel any better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I think if I felt any better, I'd be doing somersaults. I'm like, I generally feel, I think I walk about a lot of the time an optimal level. We're starting a brand next year called Beyond Human. And the reason why it's called Beyond Human is most humans walk about at 55% capacity, 55% of their actual level of energy level. So I feel like I walk about 100%, maybe feeling a wee bit better than I should a lot of the time, and I walk about quite euphoric, but that's all down to my health. No, it's not all the time, right? There's a lot of the time, but for more times than not, I feel wired, I feel on top of the world. I got my bed at 11:30 last night, and I'm wired and I'm happy, and I got up at 6 this morning to go run, as you see if you follow me on Instagram. You see me going out in -2 this morning, which took a lot of effort, but I just feel great all the time. So get in the habit of making as many good decisions about my health as, but it doesn't mean I don't eat maybe not the greatest food sometimes. Doesn't mean I train every day. It doesn't mean I'm the healthiest person on the planet. It doesn't mean I've got 8% body. But when I started forming the habit of making more good decisions about my health than bad, there's everything about my life became better. Like my relationships are better in my personal life. There's a huge difference to who I am as a dad and a husband, and my wife and kids will never say that, but I can see the difference. And I make more money.
But I also think it's a win-win for everyone. Yeah?
Like literally, you look at how much money I made versus how healthy I was. There's a direct
correlation.
For me anyway, and again, that might not be for everybody.
I think it's also just having like meaningful habits as opposed to habits just for the motions. And what I mean by that is the whole time I've known you, you went to the gym every day, you ate healthy-ish, you were doing some form of, you were either doing carnivore, you were doing keto or whatever, you were always kind of making decisions. Yes, you would have cake every now and again. Yes, we would go out drinking on a Friday night, but but your decisions were, you would not look at your life and think you were making unhealthy decisions. And then in the last, I guess, 3 years, 4 years, how long have you been working with Aris now?
I don't know, 3 or 4 years, yeah.
I think your habits have changed because you've got a deeper understanding of different things, and you've made more habit changes as opposed to just going to the gym and eating healthy. You've created habits in so many different areas of like your health journey. So I think it's also like, if you are forming habits and if you do want to make changes, thinking what are the things that are going to actually make the big difference.
Yeah,
like you were going to the gym every day, but you didn't feel anywhere near like how you feel now. So that was a habit that you had.
I go to the gym less now than I used to.
Yeah.
I train less. And I don't push myself as hard.
So I think it's so important making sure that the habits that you're doing are for a purpose and are meaningful, and you are getting the desired outcome out of it, not just because that is what you should do. No,
it's not. Nothing I do is because it's got to have a return on investment.
Yeah.
If I got to do something and don't feel like I'm getting a return on investment, I'll quickly stop it.
And do you feel like, so when you do form habits, do you feel like they're always going to have a knock-on effect to all areas of your life? So when you form habits, even in business, do you think that is going to affect your personal life, and vice versa? If you form habits in your personal life, will that have a knock-on effect to your professional life?
Yeah, one affects the other. 100%. One affects the other. I think if your professional life's good, it helps you have a better personal life, and if your personal life's good, it helps you have a better professional life. So I don't think they're separate. People can make them separate if they're just doing a job where they clock in and clock out. But if somebody's on an entrepreneurial journey and a performance-based role, then I think, going back to the mentality thing, I think feel good, do good, right? So I only form habits which are actually going to add value, like you says, and if they add value to me, that means I'll be a better version of me. And if I'm a better version of me, it means it doesn't matter where I am. I'll be a better friend. I'll be better to hang out with on a Saturday night when I'm full of beans with the alcohol, right? Like we went to this, my mother-in-law's charity ball last weekend, and I had a great time, but anybody watching would probably think I'd had a drink.
You're on the dance floor right till the end.
I have a great time, right? So I think it has an effect. Like, again, if I wasn't drinking but wasn't healthy, would I had the same energy and enthusiasm? Probably not. So no, I think it affects everything. And again, I'm not promoting being healthy. For me, health helps. Health definitely. But again, you've got good examples of people that don't take care of their health are still successful. So it's not the be all and end all. Again, you've got to form the habits that serve you. So and if they serve you, it means they serve you as a person, which means in all the areas of your life it should make you better.
So how do you identify or gauge whether those habits are serving you long term then and are either helping towards your long term goals or hindering it?
I don't think there's a measurement with long term goals. All right, how do I know if the habits are helping me long term? There's no real measurement except long term. I'd say more short term, just quickly looking at, do I feel better and am I performing better? So when I get into health, we focused a lot. Again, this new brand we're launching is called Beyond Human. We're going to sell a feeling. We're not going to sell a product. We'll sell loads of products. We're never going to sell the product. We're selling the outcome, which is you feeling beyond human. You feeling like a much better version of the human being you were before when you do this.
It's not focused on you will look like this. It's focused on this and how you feel.
Nah, you look how you look.
It's inside out, you were saying from the beginning, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you feel good to you, you look good. That's that. I think if you think about all the times you felt good, and you look in the mirror, you like what you see, but think about when you feel bad, you don't like what you see, regardless of how you look. I know people with six-packs that don't feel good but look in the mirror, and because they don't feel good, they don't feel like they look good. Do you know what I mean? And you see that with friends and family, and you got other people that maybe, I've got mates that haven't got a six-pack that don't take care of their health, but if they feel good, they believe they look good. So, I forgot the bloody question.
Identifying of habits are serving you long term.
Serving you long term. I think more short term. It's got right. What's the habit I'm forming, and what's the outcome I want from this? Like, and if I form the habit of learning, right? If I'm forming the habit, let's say, of reading a book every day, am I feeling better at the end of the week because I got more knowledge, and is that applicable in my life? Am I reading books to read books? Am I reading books because there's some measurable outcome? So I think you have to think about what the outcome of the habit's going to be. You have to figure out some way of measuring that, and then you have to short term quickly determine whether it's going to get you. To be fair though, long term, there's no way short term of measuring whether something's going to help you long term. So when we talk about me doing all this stuff for longevity, when I die, it'll tell me whether it's worth it or not. Feel great just now. I believe I'm going to reach 130. I really, genuinely, wholeheartedly think I'll hit 130 years old. I just believe it. If I die at 90 on my deathbed, I'll know it didn't work. But I'm not going to find out until I get to 130. I'll be like, it worked. So I think only long term will tell you if the habits. So sometimes, there's some habits you're going to form which you might have to wait 10 or 15 years to find out whether it was worth it or not. But that's some investments, and some investments are, am I going to make money short term? So I think picking the habits. So I have some blind faith in some of the habits I'm doing just now for longevity are going to, I believe they're true, but it's backed by science. It's not like an opinion. If I'm forming a habit, which is a long-term one, I won't form the habit unless I first of all went and researched people who have had the habit and had success from forming that habit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Like cold water therapy, fasting, all that stuff I never just done it because it sounded good. I looked into it and researched the benefits and looked at the data, I suppose, that backed it and the evidence that it was going to help. So I make that decision based on evidence rather than I think this habit's going to help me.
Yeah. So I think one thing, and when we've been talking about habits so far today, we've been talking a lot about kind of forming all these really good habits. But I think equally, when you are kind of evaluating your habits, yes, you want to create some really good habits, but you're just checking yourself out there.
I'm checking if me sitting with my arms folded look good, yeah. Sometimes I put my serious face on too. I'm like, my resting man face.
Smouldering. Oh God, never do that again. We speak a lot about kind of forming all these really good habits, but on the other side, it's just as important to evaluate what habits are not serving you and what are bad habits that you do need to kind of change, or what habits are limiting you reach where you want to be. How do you go about first of all, evaluating what habits aren't great for you, and then how do you go about breaking those habits?
Do a wee test, stop doing them and see if things improve. So let's say I think going out on a Friday night's a bad habit and not good for my business. How do I know if it's just in my head or not? Don't go out for 4 Fridays. See if there's a difference in the results in your business. If there's a better result in your business, you know that going out on Fridays actually stops you having a better business. Go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning rather than go to your bed at 12 o'clock at night. 4 weeks, go to your bed at 12. See if your business gets any better. If your business gets better, then you know that go to bed at 12 is better for you than 2. So I think in the digital world we call it A/B testing. So A/B test, I just, how do I know if a supplement's working or not? Sometimes taking a supplement, I don't know if it's working, but coming off it for a week will tell me if it's working. So sometimes coming off something or stopping something and then seeing the results will tell me whether it's good or bad. So it's not about whether something's predominantly bad, it's just if I don't do it, will it make me better? And is the cost of giving up that habit worth the reward of what I'm trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
So is the cost of not drinking and doing ice baths worth living an extra 40 years in my head? Yes, but for some people, nope. So that's a person by person thing too, because for some people they're like, say if you stop smoking, you'll live another 10 years. And I'm like, I actually don't care. There's some people that generally don't. So I think it's a person by person thing. So if you have a gut instinct that something's holding you back, test it. So then it goes for just the feeling to actual facts. Again, when I do stuff, it's based on evidence. So I figure it, I test it and see if there's evidence to back up what I'm thinking.
I also think it's just like evaluating, like, what are you doing? Like, so many of the bad habits that people will have will probably be quite subconscious. So it's also like throughout your day, if you were to sit and you were to break down like your whole day and what you do in your day, how many things within that day, if you ask yourself, why do I do that? Would you have an answer for? Like, I think there's so many things that we'll probably do that aren't, I guess going to help us long term, but we are so unconscious of us doing that sort of stuff. So I think it's also just taking some time to step back from what you do and think, okay, this is my whole day. These are all the things that I do. Do I have a reason why I'm doing this? And is it for a positive reason? Or is that just something that I've over the years just started doing unconsciously and I need to look at that?
Yeah, I done this with Netflix. And I tried that again recently because I keep going back to this, and every time I go to watch Netflix during the week, I'm like, I'll pick up a book. And so because in my head, if I watch some Netflix at night, it dumbs me down, and because I'm very busy all day. So if I watch like an hour of TV, it tends to dumb my wee brain down before I go to bed. And I want to kind of watch something that doesn't take thought process, right? And so in my head, I told myself a good reason for watching Netflix. And I'm like, well, my time would be better spent reading books. And so it's easy every time. I done this a lot last week. Every time I wanted to watch Netflix, I picked up a book. And then at the end of the week, I see if I feel more stressed or I feel better. And every time I test that, I realise that I actually feel more stressed at the end of the week because I've not gave my brain a rest.
Yeah.
Because I'm overstimulating my head. Like, yeah, reading the book in theory will add more value and I'll learn more. But there's such a thing as too much. It's like, go to the gym too much, I'll put you the other way. So I realised like I justifiably have a very good reason for watching TV at night or playing a game of FIFA at night. And I've always said it's for dumbing down, but I'm like, is that just a story I tell myself to do it? And so then I test that and I take it away. I replace it with something I think's a better habit, get to the end of the week and realise, actually, that's a terrible habit. And then I put the book away and limit my reading and do that because I realise it's important.
So what are some, over your many years working as an entrepreneur and working around lots of other people who are entrepreneurs and kind of own their own businesses, and you've seen lots of succeed, but you've also seen a lot fail. From your experience, what are some kind of common habits that you do see people have that tends to not serve them well and ultimately lead to their failure?
Laziness. Laziness is the biggest killer of people's careers. People get comfortable. Look, we're all lazy by nature. We all like the idea of doing nothing. One of my mentors used to always say it's what you do when no one's watching. Like, entrepreneurship's very difficult, and I'll explain why. Entrepreneurship, if you're someone who's entrepreneur and you get into entrepreneurship, you're going to go work for yourself. means you want to be the head honcho. It means you don't want, entrepreneurs tend to not want to answer to anybody else. But that's also really difficult for people to deal with, because when no one's watching, what do you do? And especially these days, it's easy to be motivated and it's easy to be successful, but it's even easier to get distracted. So even in it's more difficult now, I would say, to be an entrepreneur. It's easier to be an entrepreneur now, but it's also difficult. It's easier because there's more ways now, and you've got access to more ways of making money and building a company online, right? You just learn online. You don't have to have an online company. But it's also easier to get lazy and distracted. You go on TikTok for 2 minutes, I do this all the time, end up on it for 35 minutes. And you go down a rabbit hole of distraction before you know it, your brain's fried and it's 4 hours down the line and you've done nothing. Now your brain's so dumb you can't make decisions. So I think getting caught up to being lazy, I tell the people that I'm training all the time in entrepreneurship this, I'm like, when nobody's watching, my brain will still do it. Why don't you go for a sleep? Why don't you go walk up a hill? Why don't you just relax for a day? Especially if I've been going hard, my brain will start to try and talk me into being lazy. Just like if I got to get the door in the morning and go run, my brain starts giving me reasons not to do it. So I think people can very quickly get into a habit of being lazy. But watching people through my, like, once you know what to do, so if you're an entrepreneur in any industry and you know how to be good at your industry and you know how to make money and you know how to grow the business, the only thing after that is whether skill, right? So if I've got the skill, the only thing left is will. So as long as I'm willing to give it 100%, I'm always going to move forward if I've got the skill set to do so. But as soon as I lose the will and get lazy, I go backwards. And that's the number one reason I see people fail. It's because they choose not to continuously put in the same work or continuously figure ways of putting in more work. And I think that's been one of we'll call it a superpower I've managed to keep throughout my career is I'm still willing to get my bed at 6 and go home at 12. I'm still willing to be sleep deprived if I have to be. I'm still willing to be the hardest worker in the room. As soon as I'm not willing to do that, I can have all the skill in the world, but I run the risk of going backwards and failing ultimately. Because if you go backwards, eventually you'll fail, right? It's like somebody stops going to the gym. What's the number one reason people don't keep that fitness they had when they were 23? It's nothing to do with them being 20. I'm 45. I'll take most 23-year-olds a run for their money in fitness, 100%. I see people at 45 and they go, I used to be fit when I was 23. You know, I get into my 23-year-old body and I'm like, age. Somebody asked me the other day, how do I feel being 45? I'm like, age is just a number. It's one of the things I realised. I maybe have to pay more attention to feel as good as I did when I was 23, but it's a choice. I know 60-year-olds that are fitter than some 23-year-olds. So what stops people being physically fit and healthy? They get lazy. Get comfortable.
Yeah.
The life gets a wee bit cozier. The wee temperature controlled life gets a wee bit cozier, right? And your body starts giving you more reasons not to do stuff and you start to listen to your own. I says it this morning in one of my posts, like you start to listen to your own crap. So yeah, laziness. Laziness is a killer of success. Laziness in a relationship is what kills really. People stop trying and the relationship goes sour. So I think getting the habit of not trying is the killer of most things.
So what do you think is the connection between self-discipline then and creating a long-term habit?
Everything. If you don't have discipline, you have nothing. You just don't. I mean, when something becomes a habit, sometimes you'll slip. Sometimes you'll slip, right? Sometimes maybe you do get a wee bit lazy. But it's the ability to be disciplined enough to catch yourself and force yourself to fix it super quickly. So I think discipline's everything. I mean, that's why it's one of the main reasons I like getting out of my bed early and going and training. Again, when I got up this morning and it was -2 and I was gone for a 4, not here to boast about training, right? But I got up this morning, alarm went off at 6. I get up. It's -2 and frosty. All the reasons in the world. There's always a million reasons not to go. It's cold. I'm cold and the house is cold. I'm freezing. I'm cold. My muscles are sore for training yesterday. I managed to get myself out the door and go do a 4-mile run, right? But for me, that's not about being fit. For me, that's a test of my discipline. They were talking to Gilles yesterday. We were talking about saunas. And we'll talk about how long the sauna for. I was in a 90-degree sauna I do 40 minutes now and I've worked up to that. To me, it's not about the health and wellness. Sometimes it's about the discipline I get for forcing myself to do things that are really painful. Because I think when when markets crash, when industries go, when loads of things bad are happened, if I've got discipline, I'm always going to be all right. If you've got the discipline to force yourself to do the things you need to do, no matter how you feel, because no one fucking cares how you feel. Life doesn't fucking care how you feel. It's not about how you feel. I don't feel like getting up at 6 a.m. most mornings. I don't feel like training most mornings. But if you get the discipline to force yourself to do the things you need to do to get where you get, I think that's a superpower. I think it is. They done a test. There's this thing. It's called the marshmallow test. Have you ever seen it on YouTube? Have I showed you this?
No, but you told me about it before.
We run this meeting and we talk about that, and it talks about how they put. If you go on YouTube, you can see this experiment. Kids they put marshmallows in front of the kids and say to the kids, if you don't eat the marshmallow for 10 minutes, I'll give you more. And so anyway, story goes, or the scientific experiment goes, that they some of the kids, obviously, you see kids hysterical if you watch it. You see kids like licking the thing, and you see them try to be disciplined. You see kids like putting it at their mouth, and you see kids like sniffing it. And it's funny because they done this test years ago, and the kids that gave in and ate the marshmallow instead of having the discipline to wait 10 minutes to get more marshmallows had a lower success rate in life. They went back 20 years later, and the kids who had the discipline to wait actually had more successful relationships, more successful families, and more successful careers than the kids who didn't. So even in kids having discipline plays a big part in determining what happens in your life. Because it's we done a post on this the other day on Instagram, and one of my first mentors used to always say this: what's easy to do is also easy not to do. So whatever I'm trying to be disciplined to do is also easy not to do, right? It's easy to train, but it's also easy not to train. It's easy to eat healthy, but it's also easy to eat crap. It's equally as easy not to do stuff.
Yeah. I think that's motivation and excitement is going to fade. We're about to see everyone in the world in the next month and a half come up with all these new habits that they want for the new year, and new year, new them. And your favourite thing is when the gym gets busy in the morning for the first 2 weeks.
Train from home this January, I think.
Everyone gets so excited because they're super motivated with all these new habits that they want to kind of create and enforce to their lives or take out of their lives. You know, they want to maybe remove some bad habits that they've got, and they're super motivated for the first couple weeks. But that motivation is inevitably going to fade, and that's when the discipline does kick in, and that's when you do see, you know, the first 2 weeks. Well, you only said like the first 2 days this year the gym was busy in the morning, and then after a couple of days
disappear to summer.
It fades away.
Didn't
and
need a summer bod.
That's well, that's where the discipline has to kick in, because you're not always going to be excited and you're not always going to be motivated to do these things. But I think until it becomes a habit and until it moves to that subconscious part of your brain, you have to rely on that discipline. Yep.
Nah, you definitely need to rely on that. Motivation will go, excitement always. It's always going to go. I don't know. We know how I feel about motivation. I've made it quite clear on all these podcasts when people are like, I just need to learn how to be motivated. I'm like, nah, you don't. You just need to learn how to be disciplined.
Yeah.
You know, even in the things I love doing in life, sometimes I'm motivated about doing it, and sometimes, and again, I love running. Sometimes I feel great about doing it, and sometimes it's horrible, but I always do it regardless. How I feel is irrelevant, but discipline has to definitely kick in.
100%. I think a good place to end this today, and it's something that if you look into habits, if you listen to other podcasts, if you read any books about habits, if you talk to anyone about habits, you'll quite often hear the phrase habit stacking. So how can you use this technique to build new positive habits within your advice? So what's some practical advice? What is habit stacking, and how can people use that to start creating good habits?
Oh, a lot of people don't have time. So do I have time to go up and train for 3 hours a day and read books and learn and do business and be a mum and be a dad and be a friend and do all this stuff? So habit stacking just lets you do one thing on top of the other. The easiest example is if you're in the gym training, listen to a podcast at the same time if you're trying to learn. Rather than 40 minutes in the gym and a 40-minute podcast where you don't have time, you have to pick one over the other. Habit stacking would be listen to the podcast whilst training. Do you know what I mean? We just got this new, or you guys just bought me this new PEMF mat. And actually, when I was reading up, and there's a company called Hido, so we got it from, I was reading their website, they talk about habit stacking. They're like, why not use it when you're instead of meditating and using the PEMF mat, why not do it together? And I actually do these exercises called zone exercises, and the zone exercises are designed to give me energy, and I'll do these other exercises. I do these breathing exercises to get rid of cortisol at night before I go to sleep. Instead of doing my breathing exercises at PMF mat at night, and instead of doing my stuff to give me energy after my training, which is my zone work plus a PMF mat, I do the two at the same time. So habit stacking means that you're doing two good things at once, right? Reading a book whilst walking on a walking machine. Another thing you can do is, again, you watch a podcast. I'm bringing a walking machine into the office, actually. It's in the house doing not that much just now, so I asked my wife if I can bring it into the office so that I can get in the habit of walking whilst I'm working. Do you know what I mean? It's good. Obviously, it's a good habit to be working. It means I'm being productive during the day, but I'm like, instead of sitting in a chair doing it, I can walk with it, which means I'm forming a habit of doing more steps a day, which is going to be good for my cardiovascular system. So I think sometimes the problem with forming habits is we don't have time because everybody's got super busy lives, right? Especially you got a family, you run a business. So habit stacking allows you to have more good habits by putting them both together.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think sometimes when we want to start these new habits, we can kind of sometimes almost overwhelm ourselves because we make it too drastic. I think sometimes we start by thinking, okay, if I want, I'm going to create these 10 new habits in my life and I'm going to completely change my whole day. And I think sometimes we forget that we do need to start small, and we do need to start somewhere small that's going to build our confidence a little bit. And we need to start somewhere that isn't too much of an inconvenience. So I think habit stacking is a very good place to start because, again, if you can do one small thing, then that will make you think, okay, well, I could do that. So why can't I now go to the gym every morning, or why can't I do this? So I think it is a great place to start with habit stacking because I think it builds your confidence, and also it takes no extra effort because you're doing something else.
Yeah.
Everyone has to cook themselves food at some point, put a podcast on. It's not.
Yep.
You see people that do squats when they're brushing their teeth or something like that. It doesn't have to be like wild and elaborate new habits. It can just be tiny things that over an amount of time will make a big difference to your life.
Sorry, I just thought of a really funny Instagram post I seen the other day I sent my wife, and it's called Mum Training. So for busy mums that don't have time to go to the gym, and it says do a squat every time you hear mum.
Women would be ripped.
I'm like, what a great concept. So for a busy mum that's not got time because they got kids, every time you hear the word mum, you have to do a squat. You see these women on Insta, mum, squat, mum. Because, how many times your mum say, I've got to change my name. Yeah. So I say to my kids all the time, I would change my name from Dad, and they'll just go, all right, Jambo. But I'm like, what a good, do you know what I mean? Like, you're busy. So anyway, that's nothing to do with habits. I just thought that was really fun. That was my little brain.
Maybe that can be a new habit. If you hear a word, then do it.
I think you just mentioned something there, and I want to finish on this when you were talking about habits. I think a big mistake people make with habits is to try and do too much too soon. It's called low-hanging fruit, which is the easiest fruit to grab, right? If I've got all these things I need to change, I pick the habit that's going to be the easiest habit for me to form, and I do that one first, and I focus 100% on getting that right. Because you made the point there about building confidence. Once confidence is trust. I've got to be able to trust that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to follow through and it's going to become a habit. Because every time I try and form a habit and don't do it, I lose trust in myself. Therefore, I lose more confidence. And you'll see people like this that go on diets. I've seen this loads where they go on a diet and then they're like, what's the point? I always stop anyway. And they actually don't believe or trust themselves to do it. That's probably because they've went for eating 5 KFCs a week to try and eat salads every single day. So I think try to form small, achievable, easy habits in the beginning and slowly but surely work your way up to forming, I suppose, the harder ones. And even if you're getting rid of bad habits, get rid of the easy ones first and build your confidence and belief system and your ability to get rid of bad ones and replace them with good ones. I think that's key for people.
Yeah.
It takes time. And you screw up. You'll screw up. You'll fall off the wagon, but you just got to jump straight back on it.
Very wise. And I think it's very appropriate. I think lots of people will be evaluating their habits in the next month and a half, ready for the new year. New year, new them.
New me.
So
what are you changing this year? Nothing.
Yes. My question is always, what are you giving up this year? You always give something else up.
I can't give anything else up. I've gave
Sugar,
up.
alcohol.
I've given everything up. We're going to go like turbo next year, right enough, because we're launching this new brand, and I have to be like, I'm not changing anything. I just have to be more into everything. More ice baths, more saunas, more training, more healthy.
Well, maybe everyone can let us know what habits they want to start doing or stop doing.
Yeah, but only say it if you mean it.
No lies. We'll find you and
I never
find
ask
out.
anybody for their New Year's resolutions.
No. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, as usual.
Oh, I hope you've had a wonderful time talking away. I'm sure you have.
As usual, have to go pee.
Bye.